Hi, how are you?
Doing wonderful. Honored to be here on the Arts Chat. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being my esteemed guest. So are you working from home right now? Or
Yeah,
you're
actually, yeah, I've been working from home since lockdown, essentially, and also kind of before that period of time, I was already starting to work from home, so I kind of had a leg up on everyone else. In as far as I kind of was learning the process of like trying to manage my own time, and you know, it was interesting, but I was doing PR from home ahead of time.
oh,
So,
that's yeah, you
yep,
had
still working from home and trying to make that work for myself.
well, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to give you a brief intro and then you can fill in any more blanks and we'll just jump in if that's okay. All
Amazing.
right. So Dylan McCarthy is a 2017 graduate in musical performance. He got his BA in musical performance. And then in 2018, you earned your MBA with a kind of a music business focus. And
Right.
currently, you're the director of programming at JAZZREACH Performing Art and Education Association.
Right.
So I think we'll just jump in and so we know what your major was and your current position, but maybe just talk a little bit about what you're doing now and your career journey.
Absolutely. So I'll start by saying that, specifically, I studied jazz guitar at SUNY New Paltz, and it was amazing to have kind of 4 years of just dedicated focus to my instrument. And that's really what that was. And, I was able to, after that, upon realizing that there's another side of the industry that I was really interested with, I was able to kind of hop in and do the MBA, kind of cross the quad to go to Vanderburg Hall and do the MBA program, and that was really helpful in where I am now for sure. I'll say like kind of like a bridge from school to my current situation is that I was able to intern during my time as an MBA student with a wonderful publicist named Lydia Lehman, who I'm still working with. She's really, I mean, the top jazz publicist and also now a Forbes 30 under 30 recipient. So I can't say enough wonderful things about working with her and continuing to work with her. I was really lucky to kind of, be able to intern and have that experience. And then, you know, luckily, it turned into a position where I'm kind of now able to, you know, uh, be working within the industry. So, I mean, that is actually still currently going on as well. I mean, I'm also director of programming at JAZZREACH, which is a wonderful nonprofit. Actually, Lydia just joined. Hi, Lydia. We were just talking about you. Very funny. But I'm also content creator and lead writer for Lydia Lehman Promotions as well. And so that's certainly where I'm at now, which is really very exciting. And I'm also still, of course, actively playing and going to sessions within the city and composing. So that journey definitely started through the experience with, well, I'll say an undergrad. When I was interning for an organization called actually Trans Art and Cultural Services, which runs a festival called Jazz in the Valley. And I have you to thank for that in some ways. I'm not sure if you remember this, but I came to the Career and Resource Center and I was like, I just don't know what to do. I don't only want to play, even though that's my primary focus. And I don't know if you recall this, but you were like, well, you should probably look at events and festivals and concerts in the area and see if maybe you can intern. So, I was a really freaked out like college sophomore. And then, you kind of helped me transition into where I'm at now. So thank you so much.
It's hard to jump in
Yeah.
sometimes, make that,
Yeah.
from school to how am I going to make it work? Good for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you went on and got your MBA. So
Yeah.
that's not every student pursuing music or really anyone in general thinks of that. So how did that come about?
Well, I'll say two things about that. I mean, first of all, I think the role of a musician in 2021 is so much different than it probably ever has been. I mean, to be a musician, you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to be your own director of programming insofar as you're booking your own events. You have to be your own publicist in many cases, and your own manager in many cases, at least in the, infancy stages of your career. So I thought it was like a natural fit, not entirely sure what I was going to do at the time. I knew that it was either going to serve me as a musician, or it would help me enter into kind of different segments of the industry that I was really interested in. I mean, I was already working at Jazz in the Valley, where I started to intern, and then at the time became assistant producer of the festival. So I knew that that was something I enjoyed, and I loved like the atmosphere of live performance, whether I was playing or whether I was, producing the event, or just, even running sound at the time, which I was doing at Studley Theater. So it all kind of culminated in, you know, doing the MBA program, which, I'm certainly glad that I did looking back. I mean, not only did it kind of give me the flexibility of, in many courses and in many, you know, kind of, in many courses, I would get the opportunity to kind of write about the jazz industry. I remember one specific kind of term paper I had to address the differences between some of the major festivals, and that was really exciting. And now looking back, I mean, it's really useful information to have, and it was certainly very helpful in that way. So I'm really thrilled that I also just had more time up in New Paltz to enjoy playing music with my friends in that area. I mean, that was certainly another factor that went into it. It gave me more time to really play up there while I was doing all of those things, and also have several like really fruitful internships. And one in particular, of course, with Lydia doing PR for jazz artists.
Can I ask, are you still playing with
Yeah.
friends? And
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting how when you move from an area of a high concentrated group of people that you know well and you're playing with, it can change forms in some ways. I mean, I'm, insofar as I don't have like an active band, but I'm regularly working with like, you know, an array of different kind of musicians, going to sessions and going upstate for performances still. So that's certainly all still happening. And a lot of what I'm doing aside from playing really goes back into serving myself as a musician and goes back into the playing as well. So that's
Mm.
certainly still happening.
Yeah, it's great because, and that's, like Arts Chat's all about that, how you're making a living being in a creative career with
Yeah.
your FMPA degree, but also how, some of that is organizing and programming, but then you're still involved in your actual music, but in the work, you're exposed to music all the time. So it's probably some of it just doesn't seem like a job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like some of my favorite things about um, specifically the job with PR is I'm constantly listening to a lot of amazing music, and really it's like the newest and the kind of the most cutting edge exciting stuff that there is really what I'm listening to, which is really exciting. I love that, and it's really um, you know a good portion of that job, at least I got that job at least prior to COVID, was going out to see a lot of shows. um, and that's great. I mean, it's fantastic. That certainly doesn't feel like work, at all. Um, and then through that, I kind of found another intersection of something that I really am passionate about and love, but also am good at and might be lucrative, which is photography. And that's been really fruitful in the past, actually, kind of just few months, where I've been shooting for some clients and starting to kind of build that as well. So it's really just kind of working on creating kind of hard skills for myself that kind of serve what I do as a package. So it all goes back to serve the music and performance anyway. So it's pretty that part is pretty great.
Yeah,
All related.
you mentioned some of the skills. I'm thinking you probably have to do a lot of social media in your role.
Well,
Mhm.
not so much actually. No, it's mainly writing. That's certainly the vast majority, writing and some kind of graphic design type work. And that's that's specifically on the publicity side. You know, and it's a lot of that is stuff that I really never thought I would be doing. You know, but I always kind of was naturally pretty good at, I thought, you know, so I certainly, you know, it's funny, I don't think I wrote very many papers in a jazz studies degree, you know, but it just kind of goes to show that you never really know, you know, what's going to fall in your lap that you're going to enjoy. And so that's definitely a big portion of that job. And then, you know, in the director of programming job at JAZZREACH, there's a lot of kind of data that I have to deal with on a regular basis, which is in, you know, in the form of presenters who we work with around the country. You know, essentially that job is really booking. I mean, we're booking tours across the country. So, you know, it's really just kind of keeping databases up to date and like really creating relationships with presenters across the country and venues. So that portion is another side of things I had never explored. Even, you know, even in the festival job that I had while I was in New Paltz, it was certainly nothing that I was on the other side. You know, I was working to book artists into a festival, and now I'm kind of seeing the other side where, you know, I'm trying to get a group, a nonprofit, into venues and into the local schools. So that's another portion for sure of the job. And it's all stuff that, you know, I never thought I would be doing as a musician. But you know, it's all about finding the intersection of what you're passionate about and what you're good at naturally and what is kind of lucrative in the moment. You know, so I've certainly, I think, found some things that are working in that degree, but always searching also, you know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if what you would advise current students to do, maybe to build experience and build some of those hard skills. And even, you know, when they're looking at descriptions for jobs and they don't have some of those skills, you
Right.
know, how to kind of navigate that.
Right. So, you know, I would say firstly, if you're you know, an arts major, undergrad or grad, you know, I think the first thing that I kind of a light bulb went off at some point while I was studying this music, where I was like, wow, like I'm kind of in a unique opportunity where I can really ask a lot of industry professionals for help and for guidance. You know, I think the second you graduate, I don't want to say that people don't want to help you. That's not true. But it's, you know, when you're a student, it's certainly, you're in a unique position to kind of receive that help and maybe even get credit for an internship or, you know, just you can really learn from top people. So one thing that I did while I was a student was establish uh, a music management club where I brought in a lot of industry professionals to speak to students. So that was very valuable, you know, and I still, I mean, the people that I met through bringing in, you know, wonderful industry professionals to this day are just friends and also, you know, people that I will always seek counsel with. So that was very helpful. So that was a big realization for me that I can reach out and I can try to get help from people that are already in the industry and doing really great things and people that I admired. You know, what's to stop me from just reaching out? You know, whether it's a musician that you really are fascinated with, or you know, a festival producer or promoter. We had Danny Melnick, who was wonderful festival promoter and producer, come in to speak to a group of students. You know, and I continue to learn so much from everything that he's doing. So that's excuse me, that's really the first step, is I would say, like, know where to find the help that you need, because one thing that I will say, and I'll be very honest, is that, you know, when you're studying an arts degree, you know, you're focusing on your craft and it's preparing you for a craft, but it's not preparing you necessarily for a career, because a career is a fluid thing. You will have to adopt these hard skills. So getting back to your point about kind of learning these things, first of all, it's adopting a mindset that you're never done learning. And that, you know, I certainly didn't think that I would be, you know, taking, you can still hear me okay, right?
Now you can, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, sorry, I was just getting a phone call. Wow. live theater. Uh, so basically, establishing a mindset where you're never done learning and you're able to adopt these hard skills is the most important part. I certainly didn't think I was going to be shooting and doing photography at all. I certainly didn't think I would be writing, and I learned to really enjoy all of those things. So it's really that's I'd say a big step. And in terms of really just learning these hard skills while you're a student, I would say maybe you don't have to. Maybe you can focus on your craft. Maybe you can focus on your art, and just kind of have the foresight that, you want to learn from industry professionals that you can certainly call upon at any point. Surround yourself by people who excite you and almost kind of scare you in how diligent and how driven they are. And then you will always adopt those hard skills. But I would say I'm so grateful for the 4 years that I spent just learning how to play guitar. I mean, and I think from learning that, I learned so much about how to learn, and how to master something. Not that I've mastered guitar, but it got me to a higher place. So I think that's what I would say is always seek out the help that you can get from industry professionals, and also don't be afraid to use the school's resources for that, because I think that's why they're there. So I was certainly able to do that, and I'm glad I did, through the music management club.
And did you say you started that?
Yeah, I'm not positive that it's still in existence. But it was a very, very small club, but our sole intention was to bring in certain people from the industry to speak to students. I mean, that was really the whole intention behind the club, and that's what we did. So yeah, I would love to maybe even speak after this and see if we can get together a group of students who would be interested in starting it up again, because it was so fruitful for me that I would just love to see students kind of have that same opportunity.
Well, one thing I'm thinking of, because you are an industry expert professional, that are you on the Orange and Blue Network?
I'm not sure, I'm not positive.
Okay, it used to have another name, but it's a mentorship network where like students could reach out to you and connect.
Wow,
And you could connect with other alumni who are on it. So if
amazing.
I'll send you the information, but that would be a great way for students who are interested to maybe connect with you
That sounds
in
fantastic.
that. It also makes me think of a student that I've been working with who's graduating and in May and is part of a band and is studying music now and wants to stay in New Paltz and still play in the band and is trying to figure it out in terms of career and how that all fits in. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I think that would be great.
Oh,
Now
I
you're
would
like
love to connect with
setting
anyone.
me up.
Because it's a scary position to be graduating and just not know what's coming next. Um, I think I was a little bit lucky in that I just have this like anxious, like semi type A personality sometimes, where I was like, oh God, well, I know that's coming, so I have to prepare. And I'm glad that I did, seek out, a lot of assistance from people in the industry and worked on having these internships, because it really did quell that anxiety once graduation came around. So, if anyone is an undergraduate seeing this, and it's just never too early to start thinking about graduation, because
Yeah.
especially I would say, and I've always kind of felt this, that in a fine and performing arts degree, um, you are that, you're a musician, let's say, the second that you claim to be a musician, you're not, it's not like you have the degree, now I'm a musician. So it's never too early to start, networking, and it's never too early to start thinking about your career, because, it's inevitable that you're going to be in that position of graduation. So it's daunting, but it's just never too early to start thinking about, how are you going to make this work for yourself? So
I think the internships just kind of naturally, when you're in an internship, it makes you think because it's so applied and, I don't know, helps you explore things that you're like, oh, I'm good at this, or oh, I like this, or even I don't
Right.
like this.
Right.
So that's really, yeah, that's good advice. Um, Trying to think, I think we talked about a lot of what I was going to ask you. Um, yeah, I think just being open to kind of exploring and doing some applied learning. Sometimes students, they wonder how they're going to figure this out, and it's that applied um, networking, and that could be going to shows and talking to industry professionals and just kind of being
Yeah.
immersed in that world. And then it's hard because it's not always like you go to something not knowing the connections you may make.
That's true.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
just being open. I think I networked with someone at Convenient Deli. I was waiting for a sandwich.
I love
I
that.
think since I work in the career center, there's a lot of different, ties that I can
Yeah,
make for different industries. But yeah, it's like it's always a networking opportunity.
for sure. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So is there any other takeaways that you want to share with students? You've shared a lot, so it's okay.
Well, I mean, just this notion that, you know, um, the career trajectory of an artist is not linear in a lot of
Mhm.
professions. You get a degree and, and you get a job, and it's not necessarily the case for someone who's majoring in the arts. So I think as much as you can kind of um, think of the arts in a lens that you would view any other kind of field, um, and I'll exemplify this in a second. It's helpful. So for example, it's like, okay, I'm gonna graduate. Who are my coworkers gonna be? Like they're gonna be the artists that I'm playing with, and they're gonna be venue owners who I'm trying to,
Mhm.
get gigs from. They're gonna be, performing arts centers that I'm working on, maybe even getting educational residencies from, because a lot of musicians work within education as well. They're going to be publicists you're working with and managers that you're working with. So the research of who those people are and who you would like to work with, that doesn't have to wait until after graduation. There's a lot of thought that can come just prior to graduation that I, to some degree, I think I did, but to other degrees, I kind of wish that I knew more about, where do I want to play? What, who do I want to play with? I mean, there's always questions that can be raised, and you know, the fear that comes when you graduate, and you realize like, okay, like I'm kind of just in this industry that seems, it seems to just not be as lucrative as maybe any other time in its history, which is, probably true. Um, doesn't mean you can't make it work for yourself, but you can also quell that fear by planning ahead in some ways. You can think about who your coworkers are going to be, who are your bosses, um, so I think kind of thinking through the MBA program, especially analyzing different firms and different corporations, it kind of got me thinking, okay, well, if I am my own corporation, if I am an entrepreneur and I'm my own business, then, what's my supply chain? Like, who am I working with here? I think thinking along those lines, just along a very pragmatic line of thinking, can help sort out a lot of the anxiety that comes with graduation and just the unknown. So, uh, yeah, I would be happy to talk with anyone about that, because I remember that feeling of like, of course you're entering this industry. Um, and of course, I mean, it's a fluid thing, and I'm still actively working on achieving everything I want to achieve. But you know,
Yeah, I know I remember when I graduated a very long time ago, I remember thinking, I finally got this college thing down. Now I have to leave. Like,
right, 100%,
really,
100%, yeah,
now I'm good at this. I'm doing well at this. And so it's like a transition from high school to college and then college to the world. And then I
yeah,
think you don't always realize that I didn't at that age that it's like there's so many transitions in life, and we're
Right.
all learning along the way. And people aren't, sometimes you think like that grass is always greener, that people have everything figured out, and that's not the case. Or by the time you get things figured out, things are shifting. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. No progress is linear, and you just have to
yeah.
roll with the punches.
I like
And
that. I like that though, like being open to that things aren't linear. And I feel like, anybody in the fine and performing arts is that more creative mindset. So, I mean, in some ways, I wish I was more linear because I'm so putting
yeah,
things together and
yeah, me too.
it's about the journey. Um, yeah, so that's definitely my orientation. But I think that is helpful that you don't have to see things as, A to B to C, that, whatever you do even today could impact if you just like go with it and be open. It's
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
good.
I mean, create a roadmap for yourself, and then when it changes, roll with the punches. But not that you shouldn't have a roadmap for yourself. It's just that, of course, it's going to change. It's just never going to go
Yeah,
as planned, and that's
yeah.
okay. That's life.
So thank
Yeah.
you so much for
Oh,
being our
thank you for
guest
having me.
today. Yeah, and I'm going to follow up and give you that information for Orange and Blue Network because I
Sounds
think
great.
that it would be great for students to connect with you, and you'll be able to connect with all the other alumni that are on it's through the alumni office, and it's helpful for us and for students, so we promote it as
Amazing.
well. But
That's
thank
so
you so
great.
much for taking the
Thank you
time.
for thank you for having me. And if there are any undergrad students like checking this out at any point and who want to get in contact specifically about maybe starting a music management club, and talking about how that worked for me, and
That'd be
what might
great.
be fruitful there, then would love to connect with anyone, honestly.
Great,
So yeah,
great. All
great.
right, have a good weekend. Thank you.
You too. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Bye, Dylan.
Bye.